and get started here. Okay, welcome everyone to the latest Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign webinar. And today we were going to talk about telling our tree stories with examples from the GLOBE Europe Eurasia region with our own Dorian Janney. And as you know, this is the first focus of Europe and Eurasia for the campaign. We will continue that next month, and I'll have a shareable for that, but it is going to be on March 2nd. So I will go through some agenda stuff as usual and talk about some of the metrics, and then we will jump into an interview that Peter Falcon had with Lenka Kleger from the Europe and Eurasia Regional Coordination Office, and then Lenka will come on and talk a little bit about the European Phenology, the 2022 Spring Tree Campaign that they are in right now, and then we will go to the featured presentation, and then we will have Peter Nelson highlight some of the land cover and talk about some of the new Landsat 9 data that's actually just come out recently for public consumption. So, and then we will, have some final discussions at the end, and I will then showcase some of the things that we have done with the land cover maps, and we've broken them down into the 6 different globe regions, so they're easily accessible. And each slide on there is separated by country within each of the globe regions. So with that said, let's start with this again. We'll take about 5 minutes to do this, since we maybe 4 or 5 minutes to do this, because we like to kind of just do a little warm up here. But if you're looking at these 2 pictures, okay, and I want you to think which one of these best represents the GLOBE Europe and Eurasia region. Maybe you think just one does, maybe you think both does, okay? But I have to tell you, with this one, it can be tricky, but kind of all of them are, because not everyone knows about every species of trees, around the planet. But I have a couple slides after here to just, showcase a little bit about each one of these types of trees that you see. So go ahead, and if you want to, and you can in the chat, and then Peter Falcon, if you want to, mention anything that anybody writes in the chat about these. But feel free to write, what you're observing in these while you're looking at these, observing what you see in these pictures. Do you see a season? What do you see when you're looking at the land cover of these images? And as you know, this is something that we really try to impart to educators and students when they're observing pictures, to try to identify everything that they see in the picture. And it's not always obvious, but I will be quiet now for a couple minutes so you can take a look at this, and please feel free to write anything in the chat, which one you think is most representative of the Europe and Eurasia region, as well as, some of the things that you see in these images. And if you want to write about both images, that's fine.
Brian, right off the bat, Anna recognized a tree in her area from Patagonia, and she mentioned that the tree on the right, the Araucaria, I can't pronounce that, is from Patagonia. She said that she sees them in her area.
Awesome. Yep, I knew that. I knew Anna would know what that is. I almost said that when I started my discussion of it, that Anna should know what this is, but I didn't want to assume that, but I should have assumed it, because yeah.
It's funny, she writes sorry in the
that's
chat box
great.
there. Glad that she identified it so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely found, when I was reading the description of the tree on the right, the Araucaria auricana, I found that very interesting. That's why I included it. It's and I have a slide right after this to show that then.
We have another comment as well. Do you want me to just read them as they come out, or just wait for
Yeah,
to the
sure.
end?
Yeah.
Okay. So Lenka recognizes one. She says that the Fagus Saivatekya, I don't know how it's pronounced, is amazing in autumn. It's a common tree in her country, in Czech Republic, and in Europe and Eurasia region. And it does look like a beautiful fall tree. It's like you just want to stand underneath it and let the leaves fall on you.
Yeah. But that was mission accomplished on my end, because I knew Anna and people from like the Patagonia area would know the one on the right, and I was hoping that someone from the Europe Eurasia region would just be able to really pick out the one on the left. So hey, that's pretty good. My
Yeah,
my quick sleuthing worked out.
you have to make up your game and find some that are more difficult, I guess.
I know. All right, let me jump to this here. All right, so the Fagus sylvatica, the European beech, is native, and this is basically, like I said, this is native to Central and Southern Europe. Fagus sylvatica is a beautiful, large, deciduous tree with a densely pyramidal to rounded, spreading crown. It has foliage of broadly elliptical, lustrous leaves. Those are not my words. I stole those words from one of the sites. I paraphrased it, but I just like the way it was described. It has foliage of broadly elliptic, lustrous leaves. And the other one, the Araucaria araucana, is also known as the monkey puzzle tree. And it's an evergreen conifer that is native to the woodland volcanic slopes up to 6,000 feet in elevation in the Andes Mountains in Chile and Argentina, and is a national tree of Chile. It typically grows to 20 to 30 feet tall in cultivation, but may reach 90 to 130 feet tall in its native habitat. Trees are loosely pyramidal and open when young, but develop an umbrella-like crown with loss of lower branches as they age. So very cool tree, very interesting. I've seen pictures of this tree just in passing, and I never knew what it was. But then I, was doing some searches for, South American trees, and I was like, whoa, this is a pretty wild tree. So yeah, very interesting. The monkey puzzle tree, or the Araucaria araucana. So I thought there was, an interesting one. But for those of you who identified the left one, the European beech, the Fagus sylvatica, as the the Europe and Eurasia representative tree, awesome job. And thank you, Anna, once again, for being able to identify the this one here as one that you see frequently in your location.
There's a couple more comments if I may read them. So
Of
Lenka
course.
mentioned that the Fagus is also included in the phenology campaign species.
Ah,
That's great. And then Marcus mentioned that the Fagus sylvatica is typical for my Central European region, but we also have Araucarias, I need to learn how to pronounce these tree names, in our southern canton of Tessin. Fagus is slowly disappearing as it becomes warmer and warmer. In the
oh,
Jura region, we have whole Fagus forests that are dying. And
wow.
Anna wrote that the Araucaria has a very heavy fruit and it falls near its plants. Some animals disperse them, but in general they form pure forests in the same species. They're found
Are,
in Chile and Argentina as well.
Anna, are they an edible fruit, or are they just not meant to be eaten?
She might be muted. She did mention also in the comments that they live for 1,000 years and can
Uh,
are resistant to fire.
Ah, go ahead, Anna. Oh, thought I heard Anna.
sorry, you asked me?
Yeah, is this fruit, the fruit from this tree, is it an edible fruit? I mean, can you eat it like humans?
The fruit is a very many use, is have a cultural card a lot. For example, the native people use a lot this fruit, make different preparation, and for example, similar as cereals. For
Okay.
example, for bread, for make a bread, or today you use another recipe.
Ah, so it has a big
But the fruit
cultural.
is only the fruit only the native people have legal use for commercialization.
Okay.
Sorry, my English.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, that's great. So it has, certain people can use it for commercial use. It seems like it has a nice historical, cultural, use for this with the creation of, serums and things like that. Yeah. So yeah, very interesting. It kind of reminds me of when we had the speaker from South Africa talking about the baobab tree and all the different uses, from medicinal to, eating it, to culinary. So yeah, very interesting. All right, well, thank you all for that. All right, so I want to show this again, the metrics, as you can see in the kind of the white flag down there, we are closing in on 100,000 measurements that have been taken from tree height, land cover and greenings throughout the life of the campaign. So perhaps by next month or even maybe April, we will hit 100,000 measurements. And as you know, and we all know that, these measurements are not taken by only Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign participants, but we showcase these metrics once again because we want the students to be able to, use this data that came out during the duration of the campaign, because as you know, NASA and a lot of their research looks at change over time. The Landsat 9 mission is looking at a lot, what it's measuring, what it's observing, it's looking at things that like Landsat 8 and 7 and all the way back 50 years to the first Landsat satellite measured. It's looking at change over time. And that's one thing that we really like here, that we have these multiple measurements coming in from the, a lot of times the same locations in the last 4 to 5 years. The campaign has, we're on the 4th year. So, students who, or citizen scientists who have taken observations in a particular location, and if those observations are still continuing, we can really, look at that data and compare those changes over time, by just, grabbing that info from the GLOBE database and, checking it out. So that's why we show the metrics here with this. So as you can see, the tree height observations are coming from all over the place. This is tree height, land cover, and greenings. We have had basically 42 webinars and eight special webinars. These are collaborative webinars that we've had that have been recorded that are on our website. And also we have a bunch of blogs. We have 56 blogs. Now this includes blogs that are part of the Trees campaign, as well as ones that we created for tree science for the NASA Globe Observer. So it's a combination of, our campaign blogs and the NASA Globe Observer Trees blogs as well. And then I think we're gonna add the land cover ones onto that. I have to get some info out to someone to give me all those metrics for that. But as you can see, once again, we're closing on 100,000 measurements from over 36,000 global locations. So, lots of amazing data coming in. And I just want to thank a lot of you, even though it's not part of the campaign, but as you know, today is the last day for the NASA Globe Cloud Challenge 2022. You will have until Friday. If you have any data on your phone, on your mobile device still, it needs to be uploaded to Globe by Friday the 18th. And after that, any data that comes in after the 18th will not be part of the challenge. And I can say that we, as one of the big components of that challenge is that they've been looking to do an amazing amount of satellite matching for the cloud observations. And, I just saw an email come in before this webinar that, our original goal was 25,000 satellite observations, and we hit that around the 20th. No, I shouldn't say. No, we hit that. I don't know if it was 20 days. No, we hit that probably about a week and a half ago. And then we put it up to 30,000, and then we put it up to 40,000, and we just hit 40,000 cloud observations with satellite matches. We have more observations than 40,000, but we have over 40,000 satellite matches right now, with the challenge. So, and I know a bunch of you have probably taken cloud observations, so thank you for that. All right, as a reminder, right now, the 2022 International Virtual Science Symposia has set all their information out there. It's all on the GLOBE webpage. And the focus this year is engineering solutions for a changing climate. And I just wanted to give you the reminder here. And on the website, if you go to with IVSS page on the GLOBE website, you will see this timeline of information. And you can see here that, most recent thing was an IVSS webinar, which some of you might have participated in on January 18th. But one of the most important things here is the due date for all student reports and projects is March 11th, 2022. And then there's going to be a judging period from March 30th through April 6th, and then virtual and feedback and virtual badges shared on April 22nd. And then there's going to be those drawings for different stipends and things like that. So I just wanted to, because I know a lot of you are working with your students for research projects, and you're going to submit them to IVSS. Hopefully a bunch that will be aligned to the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign with some trees observations or greenings, land cover, things like that, and a combination of other protocols that might be part of it as well. But just wanted to give you the heads up on there that March 11th is that final due date for the IBSS 2022 student reports and projects. All right, a couple last things here before we jump into the meat and bones of the webinar. I wanted to announce, and this is just announced yesterday with our ISET2 team, the ISET2 Orbit Track app is now available for Android and iOS. And here I have two screenshots of what you see when you go to the websites. And here are the just two URLs here. And I will share these URLs on the webinar page when I add all the info with the recording. But what's cool about this is, I should say the Android one has a couple more features right now that are being worked into the iOS one, because the Android one has been out for a little while now, for I want to say for about 6 months. And we originally had one on the iOS platform set up, but it ran into some glitches and they had to go back and reevaluate everything and get it. So what you can do here is, on these apps, you can go in and you can find where when ISET2 will be close to you. When you go into the app, and this is a free app, by the way, you don't have to sign up or anything. You just go in and download it and you're ready to go. But you can put in your latitude and longitude, or you have the option to just, if you have location services turned on, click, for my area, and then you can put basically a distance, how far you want to find this. You can, the search radius it's called, and you can do this in miles or kilometers, and then you can then see when ISET2 is going to be near your location. I did it for my latitude and longitude, and the first day ISET2 is going to be close by, within a 5-mile radius actually is going to be February 20th. So, and then the 22nd, it's going to be down the road further. Then in March, it's going to return, kind of between those two spots. So you can then, potentially see where ISET2 is hitting. And what it's going to show you here is, and you can kind of see it on the right side here, you can see the green dots in the middle image. I should say the third image. That's exactly when, where basically the footprint is going to hit, that ISET2 footprint is going to hit. And it tells you exactly what time, down to the second, when it's going to be there. So, and then, if it's going to hit an area in your location where there's trees, go out and take tree height observations. And then, you can potentially, hopefully ISET2 will be able to see them. As you know, if the cloud cover is too thick, you might not get a return of the photons, so you might not get a tree height. That's just out of our control. But what this app allows you to do is it allows you to track the orbit path of the ISET2 satellite. Right now on the Android version, you're able to go back in the past and go look in the past for, past orbits, like you can do on Open Altimetry. The iOS one that's one of the things that it's still working on to do. But iOS, it'll show you the future, within the next few months, where ISET2 will be in relation to your location. So, feel free to check that out. You can just go to the App Store or the Google Play Store as well. Sorry, the App Store, Google Play Store, and just type in ISET2, and that will be most likely the only one that pops up there. And then you can download that, and you'll see this penguin. This is Paige the penguin, one of our official mascots, like the Photon, which are part of the ISET2 mission. But feel free to check that out. And Peter Nelson, did you want to mention anything else about like the NASA app?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention as well, because Brian highlighted this wonderful tool, and I realized also the NASA app that you can download to your mobile device has a lot of really great information in there, including the ability to find out when the International Space Station is going over, which has the JEDI instrument on it, which we've talked about, as well as EcoStress and a couple other instruments on there. And it also has a variety of 7 or 8 other lands or satellite missions on there, and you can see where they are in the world in an augmented reality way. And so you can actually see when it's going to fly over you, or where it is in the world. And so I just wanted to mention that the NASA mobile app is a really wonderful, useful tool. That's another way that you can connect with NASA missions and sort of find out when things are happening. And I was just excited to see something pop up that's allowing us to connect and know where these satellites are. So this one is specific to ISAT-2, but recognize that that NASA app is really useful in a lot of other ways. And so we'll make sure to add some screenshots of that as well to this so that people can see sort of those different opportunities and information right there on a mobile app. And so I highly recommend that one too.
Yeah, it's amazing what's available at your fingertips in this day and age. It's amazing stuff, for sure. All right, thank you, Peter. All right, so now we're going to jump into the next thing after this. Our next webinar will be all about the European Phenology 2022 Spring Tree Campaign with student research presentations from across GLOBE Europe and Eurasia region. And we are hoping, and we've contacted, and thank you, Lenka and others, to have presentations from students in Ukraine. Marcus, thank you, potentially Switzerland, as well as Ramona, thank you, Malta, and then also Croatia with Petra. So Petra students. So yeah, this is going to be great. I'm still waiting on some finalized things with the students, but hopefully everything will work out well, especially for the students in Ukraine, because a lot is going on right now in Ukraine. So we're thinking about them. But that will be Wednesday, March 2nd, 2022 at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time or 6 p.m. UTC. And Lenka will be our featured presenter at that webinar. So stay tuned for that. And you'll be receiving an invite with that shortly. All right. So I grabbed this screenshot, Lenka, from the webinar last week that I was part of with the European Phenology Campaign, the kickoff webinar. I won't talk much about this. You can talk about this in a little bit, but what we're going to do here is this is what Lenka's going to talk about today. This first is going to be the Peter Falcon recorded an interview with Lenka several weeks ago, and we're going to be showing you, like we did before with some of the other folks from the different GLOBE regions, we're going to be showing you the first half of the interview today. This is just over around 7 minutes or so, and then we're going to show the second half in March in the second part of the GLOBE Europe and Eurasia portion. But today is going to be meant with Lenka. After the interview, she's going to talk a little bit about this 2020 Spring Phenology Campaign, and it's going to serve as a teaser for next month's, where she's going to get more into it, and then we're going to have the student presentations. So let me go ahead and start this interview here. And this is, as I said, this is the first part of it. Hopefully I broke it in half at a pretty good spot. So, let me go ahead and play this. And then I will pass it over to you, Lenka, after this first part of the interview is completed.
Welcome, everyone. We're here with Lenka Klager, and we are here for the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign, Year 4. This is the February session, and in this session, we're going to be concentrating on the Europe and Eurasia region. And today, Lenka is going to be talking to us about the Phenology campaign. Lenka is a professional who's been in the Czech Republic since 2014, if I'm correct. You've been at Teresa. You work in the regional office there at Europe and Eurasia. And you've been a part of the GLOBE program since 2014. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
And then your background, you also have a master's degree in environmental studies, I believe, environmental science, right? From Charles University in Czech Republic, and a degree in environmental studies as well, and the University of Aarhus in Denmark. Did I pronounce that correctly?
Yes. Aarhus University. I studied there for some shorter time, the full degree, part of my studies.
Good. And then, so part of your position is you have a lot of different countries that are associated with the Europe and Eurasia region, 45 to be exact. So that must be a really difficult task to be able to kind of juggle all these different countries with all these different languages, very diverse population. So tell us a little bit about yourself, if I missed anything, and about the phonology campaign, if you like.
So thank you very much, Peter, for this nice invitation and nice introduction. I'm really happy to be here and to have the opportunity to talk about the phonology campaign. And what I want to emphasize about the campaign, that it's a result of really great cooperation of our small team in the Regional Coordination Office for the Europe and Eurasia region, together with the country coordinators from these many different countries, with teachers, with students, and also with many scientists, including the Trees Around the Globe campaign team. So it's a very nice work to cooperate together.
When I think of GLOBE, you know, we've been around for 26 years, so lots of different campaigns going on. You have clouds, you have mosquitoes, urban heat lighting, trees. But one of the, in my opinion, one of the most popular ones, most successful, is the GLOBE European Eurasia phonology campaign. And right now, I know you guys are gearing up for your spring campaign. I believe it's called the 2022 Tree Spring 2022 Tree Spring Tree Campaign. Tongue-tied. 2022 Spring Tree Campaign. Did I get that correct?
I'm sorry, Peter. I just.
Oh, no. I know. No worries. So right now you have the spring campaign gearing up. Tell us a little bit about the spring campaign, what it's called, because I totally butchered the name. I think it's the 2022 Tree Spring Campaign. I think that's what it's called. Tell us a bit about that, and about if you see any synergy. Let me see. Yeah, tell us a bit about that, the spring campaign, please.
Yes, it's you're right. It's a little bit confusing as we are using two different names for the campaign. It's called the European Phonology Campaign, but as sometimes the word phonology might sound a bit not so familiar, so we also call the campaign Spring Tree or Tree Observation Campaign. So that it's clear what we are doing, because phenology is a science about how living organisms, how animals, plants respond to seasonal changes, to climate changes. And it's a very broad science. And in our campaign, we only focus on trees. So what we do with schools, with teachers and students, we follow the spring change of trees. So the way how trees, the buds on the trees are growing bigger and opening, and how the fresh new leaves are growing out of the buds. And then in the autumn part, we follow how, again, the tree changes, how leaves start to turn yellow and red and many different shiny colors, and how they slowly fall down. So this is the core of the campaign. And we have like almost 20 countries cooperating in this campaign, schools from these 20 countries. They not only do the activities, but they also exchange the information, their results, their findings, their experience, and they cooperate together. As we have a so-called collaboration group where schools can be matched together into the smaller groups of 2 or 3 teams, and they can even plan some research projects, for example, or just call each other, meet on Zoom or other platform, and be in a close contact and exchange information about the trees, but also learn about the language of other country, about the culture, and so on.
With the campaign, is it open up to a lot of different participants who can participate in the campaign, and what age ranges or grade ranges do you usually have in your campaign?
We think that advantage of this campaign is that it can really, the teachers can really involve students from very young kids who can just do very simple activities, just simply observe the tree changing. Now in spring, they can just wait for the buds to open. They can do some extra things like draw pictures or just what they can achieve. But the older students can even plan some research project. They can combine the green up activities with some temperature measurements and precipitation measurements and really plan a bigger research project. So it's really available for different age groups. And the campaign is intended for the schools from the Europe and Eurasia region. So this is where the schools come from, but all the materials, they are available on the GLOBE program website. So anyone who's interested, even from other regions, can join the activities, can try to observe trees in his place, and also can join our webinars, which will be organized during the spring campaign.
The thing that I love about the campaign as well is all the artwork that comes from it. It's so cute to see all this beautiful artwork that students are creating. So they're also bringing not just the science and technology and mathematics, engineering into it, but they're also bringing that form of art into the science, into understanding what's going on in their area with the phenology. And I think it's just beautiful to see. We don't see it enough, is what I'm saying, in my opinion.
All right, that was the first half. So what I'm going to do now is, I'm going to stop sharing and pass it over to you, Lenka, to talk a little bit more about the campaign as a teaser for, next month's webinar. Let me get out of here. Stop sharing. There we go.
Hey, thank you very much, Brian, and hello, everyone. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm happy for the opportunity to introduce you the campaign, to share with you our information about the activities and about the plans for the spring. So I will share my screen. Well, yeah, I hope you can see it. If it's not working well, please just tell me. And
it looks good.
Okay. So I think this webinar was a lot about telling a story. So I also prepared a short story of how we observe seasonal changes in the European Phenology campaign. And I want to start the story briefly about what is it, phenology, and why we do it, why we need to do the phenology observation. So here I have two pictures. The first one shows us a phenology changes of a tree over a short period of time, over a year. So it shows us how the tree reacts on the changes of temperature and on just the seasonal change over the year. So for example, at the moment in my country, in Czech Republic, we are in winter. So we have trees still bare, but the buds are still slowly starting to grow. And now in the spring campaign, we will be observing how the leaves will grow and grow. Then when the spring ends, the trees will flower, fruits will grow, and so on. And in the autumn part of the campaign, we will again come back to observing how leaves are changing color and falling down. So this is what happens in 1 year, what we can do in our phenology campaign. But what is very important, that if we get the phenology data for a longer time, it can also tell us a lot of information. It can show us some trends in the phenology, or in the, some trends. So I have here one example for you, one picture, which shows us when sakura or cherry trees in Japan are blooming, the peak of sakura blossoming in Kyoto. And on the horizontal axis, you can see years from very old, from the year 800 until now. And on the vertical axis, you can see dates. So the lower, the earlier the date is. And as you can see, the trend, it's changing over time. It's moving up and down. But in the last years, it's going only down, which shows us actually that the sakura trees react to the changing climate, to warming climate of our planet, and they're starting to bloom earlier and earlier. And this is actually why we need to do the phenology observation, why we need the data. One of the important reasons is that it helps us to understand the change of climate, the change of nature, and help us to predict even, which is very important, and it's also very precise and quite cheap way how to do it. We also can use phenology data in many other fields, such like in agriculture, when it helps us to know when we should start sowing seeds or when we should start harvesting the fruit, so to make the agriculture effective and beneficial for us. Or in healthcare, I hope you don't suffer with pollen allergies, but in case you do, then I think you know how important for you is to know when some tree or some plant will start blooming, so that you can protect yourself. And this also comes from phenology observation, these data. And there are many other fields, such as protecting the forest. We could hear or read in the chat that with the changing climate, the trees are changing in certain locations. So this all can be understood through the phenology results, phenology observations. But to get this data, this information, we really need help of schools or of a citizen scientist, because we have satellites orbiting around the Earth which provide data, but we also need the observations from the ground, which are really precise, very detailed, and your eyes can really see very well what's going on with one specific tree. So this is really important to know. And here are some pictures from the schools that have been participating in the phenology campaign in the past. It shows how they were measuring the leaf land, observing buds, and doing different campaign activities. So I really invite you to join them and join the phenology campaign. And here you can see what you can expect in the phenology campaign. We have 5 short activities that actually help schools to go through the GreenUp observations. And these start with choosing a tree, then go over choosing a bud and following the bud as it is opening and growing. Then comes the time of measuring the leaf length until it stops growing. And then the important part of working with data, entering the data into the GLOBE database and sharing them with other schools and also with scientists. We also have one final activity that is more about arts, more about going out and just playing with the leaves or doing some art pieces. In the campaign, we also want to look at the trees, get more information about the trees. So it's for phenology, it's very important to know also what the other conditions are, such as precipitation and the temperature. So we also encourage school to do the precipitation measurements and measure the temperature together with the GreenUp observations. But we also look at the trees from the point of measuring its height or trying to find out how the tree is involved in the global carbon cycle. So this all you can try if you join the campaign, or actually even if you come to the website of on the GLOBE website, on the site of European Phenology Campaign, which here you can see the print screen, how it looks like. And there you can find all the activities. They are freely available, so you can download them for yourself. If you are from other region than Europe and Eurasia, perhaps the timing of your spring changes a little bit different. So it's the best for you if you download the materials and use them whenever you need to. You can also find their invitations to webinars that we have planned for the spring, and this will be meeting with scientists and also meeting with other teachers and students and exchanging the experience. Yeah, there are many resources for your teaching. There's also a place to share your experience. So I really invite you to come and see all the materials yourself. So thank you very much for attention, I will stop sharing my screen and will be very happy to add anything if you are interested.
Does anybody have any questions for Lenka? I know Lenka will be presenting more, of course, at next month's webinar.
I do, Brian. I'm reading through the chat, and I think we can all agree, Lenka, you have such amazing graphics. Very beautiful, especially the photos of the trees. I mean, those are really awesome. Where do you come up with these graphics?
Well, I I have to say most of it is just freely available on the internet, but some of the pictures come from schools, as I was saying. So I want to thank to some of the schools which are here with us. We have Snežana Marković-Zoraya, which is author of one of the picture, for example. So I think the best graphics and best pictures actually come directly from the school tree observers, I have to say.
I also want to thank Lenka for excellent presentation. Amazing graphic. I agree with Peter second on his compliments. We do work with schools in Ukraine, and I'm really happy to see that they are involved during this, especially during this challenging time. So we all are very grateful for all your efforts and supporting GLOBE family. So, and hats off to your excellent work. We all really applaud you. Thank you for your great presentation.
Perfect words, Larissa. That was great. All right, anyone else? All right, let me hop back to this real fast, and we will pass the torch over to Dorian. And once again, Dorian is our featured presenter, telling our tree stories with examples from the GLOBE Europe and Eurasia region. She's going to be showcasing a very amazing tree stories story map with you that she's been working very hard on getting together and working with students and teachers from all over the GLOBE Europe and Eurasia region. So let me stop sharing and take it away, Dorian.
Thank you so much. And can you hear me okay? And can you see
Yep.
the picture of my granddaughter hugging a tree? All righty. So
Yep.
So I wanted to come up with a way for us to tell our tree stories, to also have this be something that is a very easy ask. My hope is that once people see the data from the satellite mission, which I support, so I am going to be throwing that in here as well, and we can look at how maybe that helps us to tell our tree story, and also perhaps consider what that tells us about the future of this species of tree that each person picks based on what the climate projections are. So I thought I would just kind of start off thinking about what would be the kind of easiest ask. And I'm saying easy ask because in this case, while something like this could be taken and used for international virtual science symposium projects, or used in a variety of different ways, I would really like to invite senior citizens, people who don't know a lot about science but are really interested in learning more about their tree. Just invite everyone to the table rather than kind of assuming that we're taking people that have a whole lot of knowledge in how to get in and interact, especially electronically, with this different data. Here I'm just going to be walking you through, I'm not even going to click on everything. I'm going to put the link in here so you have access to these directions. This kind of states the reason for, and then of course plugs a little bit of information about the satellite mission that I support. Oops, sorry, I clicked something and then it made my chat really big. So basically this just gives the overview. What is this project all about? What I'm going to do for this group is I'm going to actually take you to the Tree Stories project, which you can access here, show you some of the examples that I've gotten from many of you who are on this call and from a few others. And I want to tell you this is an ongoing project. So when you see your information here and you want to add something to it, just email me with that. It was really exciting to me that Bara, after she saw her iMerge data, she sent me some more information, and I've added that to this project. So as you look at these different stories that people are telling, if you, and especially if it's your story, feel free to add more. There are a few limitations with using story maps, as I found out. When you are using the one that's called the sidebar, which I use for giving my directions, you have the ability to add a lot more things to it. When you're doing a map interface, like I'm doing with this one here, you'll see in a minute when the map comes up, you have fewer options that you're able to do. But I feel like this is a better use. It's better to use this template for this purpose. So what we see here is when we look at this map, each of these red areas are showing where I have gotten tree stories from so far. And if you click on one of those, you can go directly to that. This is where I am right now in Boise, Idaho. So I've done one because I'm going to be presenting this to them and hope to see some more tree stories coming up. We'll be focusing in a couple minutes over here in Europe. But, eventually it would be really neat with our GLOBE family to be able to fill in lots of different parts of the world. Partly because it's fun to share our tree stories, but I think it's also really fascinating to look at what the Global Precipitation Measurement Mission is measuring as we look at the seasonal precipitation data. So how much rain and snow fell over each month over seasonal periods, and then get a feel for what does that tell us about what the land cover is going to look like and what kind of trees could grow there. I'm going to start off giving a couple examples of that. So these are situations in which I did not get someone in this area to give me their land cover and their tree data, but I wanted to give an example of these different kinds of trees and how you could use the iMerge data from the Global Precipitation Measurement Mission to help understand the needs of these trees and then make some predictions for the future. Say for the year 2050, could we still see the baobab tree growing and thriving based on how temperatures are going to change and also how we anticipate precipitation patterns will change. Let me open this and make this big here. So when we're looking at this iMerge data, what we're seeing, and this is all data that has been collected by the Global Precipitation Measurement Mission and the previous mission, the Tropical Rainfall Measurement Mission. Because we're using this level 3 data, there's also been some additional data which has been factored in, which do include rain gauge data and other types of data as well. So it's kind of neat when you're working with this final product because you're seeing a lot. Well, you're getting a real picture of, and I love using this just the 4 seasons color graph here to get a picture of what is precipitation like seasonally, kind of, and we're only looking at a 20-year record because that's only how far we go back with the GPM mission. And I know that we cannot use this to be an indication of climate, but we can look at these data and get a feel for some extreme events and for some patterns and trends, and also to help us start to learn how to look at these data and do some data analysis. So with our blue line, that's December, January, February. So you can see in Madagascar, that is actually their rainy period. It looks like they experienced some drought conditions over here in 2018. Another thing I want to draw your attention to is over here on the X coordinates here, you're going to see these numbers change based on location. So here we are looking at, all the time I'm looking at millimeters per month. So this is telling us December, January, February. Each month during those seasons, there was an average of, in this case, say 200 millimeters per month that was falling. And, so that's a lot of precipitation, especially when you see, as we look at some other data, sometimes in places that don't experience that much precipitation, we might see that range is just 0 to 50. So that's also something to get students and all of us, not all of us students of the world, to just kind of look at these graphs and start to tease out what's going on. We can definitely see that June, July, and August is generally a very dry period, and that's pretty consistent here for this area. So what does this tell us about the tree? Well, let me close that there. And I put on a couple of sample questions that I felt we could learn about this tree based on this kind of precipitation. I like to find out what kind of tree it is, and then give a little bit of information about that tree. Sometimes if I find some research that has already been done based on the precipitation and maybe even the potential impacts of climate change, I'll include that there. So there's a hyperlink there. Some of the questions that I put on that people can think about when they look at that iMerge data and think about that tree: when does this region get the most precipitation? About how many millimeters fall per month during this season? When does it get the least? About how many millimeters fall per month during the dry season? What patterns and trends can you observe from this 20-year record? What form do you think most of this precipitation is in? Getting people to think about, well, at this location, do you think it would be frozen, liquid? Does it depend on the season? How might precipitation, the amount of precipitation that falls seasonally, impact the kind of tree that grows here? So that's kind of the information there on that tree. Then I did one more where I did an example, not getting people to collect the data, but just kind of what could we learn from this data? So here we're looking at Finland, and we're looking at one of the world's oldest trees. And here we see that we're not seeing those definitive dry periods per se. I mean, we certainly see that there are seasons where they experience less precipitation. We might even infer, based on this geographical location, that during December, February, January, February, during the winter, it's falling as snow, which is important. You know, so we can kind of tease out here too, when they had potentially had some extreme events over here in 2012. Perhaps they experienced flooding in some of those areas. Later, you'll see when we look at some of the tree stories from Europe that people have shared in, especially Baro, as she looked at her data, shared in some incidences of extreme events that occurred. So you can go through, and again, I did the same thing. I won't have us look at each of these, but just a few questions to consider. So then, of course, I took my own data from my own home, and now, of course, I did do my tree height measurement. This looks a little sad here because it is this was done in the midst of the winter for us, and it's not all that green, and we don't have any leaves on our coniferous trees here. But I got my tree height measurement data. When I ask people if they can send me a screenshot of their data, this is what I'm referring to. I don't need a screenshot of each of the different steps you took to get the data, just your final data. And I've made that a little more clear in this new thing that I've created. Then I also asked, will you give me your land cover data? Because we get a broader story when we aren't just looking at that one single tree, but now we're seeing what is around the tree, urban, different things we can note here, and what the seasonality is like in this area based on that land cover data. Even if you're not going through, the ask here is not that people go through and even do that figuring out what different kinds of land cover they have. Certainly you can, that's extra for experts, and we always like that. So you see here where I live now, we only go, we never kind of have, rarely have zero. So we go from 25 millimeters per month to 200, and we get precipitation year round. So the type of the species that I was talking about that I planted, and I give a little information about how we planted it and why. And this I also did a monthly graph, which really hurts your head when you look at it, but it's kind of cool information too. And then I love if people don't mind, and if they give me a permission slip so that I have permission, to put a picture of you with your tree to kind of, again, add that personal touch to it. So let me just show you next, come over here, a couple of our trees from Europe. So Bara, let's start over here with Bara's. She tells us a little bit, and we'll look more closely at this, about what this land had formerly been used for. And here she's giving us a little peek around this tree, what it looks like. Now we get to go here and, sorry about that, and take a look at her tree. Just gonna make that a little bigger here. No, it doesn't want to do that, fine. And then we can look at her land cover data and get a feel for what that was like. And then we can look at her 20-year record of precipitation data. And what Bara sent me, which was really interesting, and I'll share in a minute, is that they experienced a lot of flooding here in 2002. She found a video that I was able to add to this that showed some of that flooding that took place, and also talking about her tomato plants and how this varied precipitation had an impact for her tomato plants. Let me show a few other things I'm throwing in here. If you have a presence on GLOBE, I'm putting here a hyperlink. So let's say somebody looks at this and says, wow, I'd really like to collaborate. Then they can just go and push on that hyperlink, and then they can have easy access and ask to collaborate with, with the person, sorry, I'm having a hard time seeing this over here, with the person who did this tree story. So I've added that to this, a little information about you, if you give that to me, or if I can find it on the GLOBE site. I tell which kind of tree was chosen here. I need to change that to make that in italics. I apologize. Always try to do the species in italics, follow convention. She says it grows on a small hill. And then I love to also include a quote. So here she was telling us a little bit that the hill is in a green area at the edge of a newly built residential and commercial area covering former brownfield. The surroundings used to be an industrial area during the 20th century, and this small hilly patch was at the edge. Since the factory closed down and the place was rather abandoned, the location has become a hideout for plants, birds, trees, and even bigger animals like deer. And she goes on to talk more about, you know, what has been being done with that area where her tree is. When she looked at her iMerge data, she said that some of the precipitation extreme events were caught very nicely here. It gives a little bit of information about how that dry seasons helped for her tomato harvest, which I think is just really neat information to have. And then comparing that, as you're able to, as you look at that 20-year and contrasting it, you know, is really interesting to look at. So then when she shared the links, what I can do is I can add these as hyperlinks. I can only put in 5 pictures per person. That's just how this format works. But I can, and I can't even add pictures in here, just again, how it works. But I can add hyperlinks. So if you ever wanted to do a short video of you with your tree and you talking about your tree, I can also include that. That'll take a minute to load. It's not important to show you here, but I just wanted to show you that that's the sort of thing I can add. Then I also had Ramona. She added up information about her tree. So here we see Ramona with this beautiful tree that's come back here, standing over there at the edge of the road. Really, really gorgeous there. And we can see a little bit of the vegetation around it. And then here's our information, our data on our tree height. And I wanted to show you over here where you see this latitude and longitude. What's nice about that is you can just take this data here in order, and which I'll show you in a little bit, in order to get your iMerge data. The thing is, though, you need to take it in your decimal form. So that's our 20s, or was it our 36 here, and then our 14, and you need to flip it around. Our longitude has to go first and then our latitude. But I make sure I spell that out in the directions. Here is our land cover. Really gives us a good feel for the surroundings around this tree. And then here is her iMerge data. So we see here that clearly in this location, there is a dry season, that summer dry season. Here we see the, wow, a lot of precipitation. Now, again, we look over here, this is 0 to 250. And we can clearly see how variable precipitation is in our fall, September, October, and November, and especially December, February, and January. So really, really interesting to take a look at this data and then kind of get a feel for, you know, what is this data telling us? What can we tease out of this data? When I can find some information on the tree, I put a hyperlink there as well to give some information about that. I try to find a little bit of information out about how much precipitation that tree needs, talk a little bit about the importance of the land cover data, and come down and give a little bit of information, like I was saying, teasing out how you can see those different patterns there. So let's move on now to Greece. Here we have this another really gorgeous tree, our series of trees here on Mount Olympus. And check this out. I think this really helps a lot too. Here, Thanos went and he's doing a circumference measurement. When I looked at the picture of the tree before, I had no idea how immense that tree was. When I see him doing his circumference, wow, that really brings home, you know, the height of that tree. And it's just kind of neat to see him out there in that environment, working with the tree. Here is that precipitation data. Oops, come back here. Here, precipitation data, come back here. So I don't know why I need to redo this precipitation data, because now that I'm looking at it, and this is strange, I've never seen that before, it's missing an entire season. Must have been that in my rush, he had given me the coordinates wrong. And so this morning before I came out to my meeting, I went and I redid the iMerge, and I must not have set that I wanted all seasons. So that's something easy enough to go back and fix. He again gives a little information about the tree. When you get a chance, go in here and take a look at each of these. Spend a little bit of time looking at these different tree stories. And like I say, feel free, if your story's here, to add more. And if your story's not here and you want me to include it, to share it. So the last tree story from Europe I'm going to show you. And here, oh, come back here. We have Lenka. And she is there with her beautiful tree, which again gives us a feel for the size of that tree. And here she went, and this is really a nice screenshot to include as well. She did go ahead and did do her talking about and telling us about the kind of land cover she's looking at. Again, you don't have to, but it's fine if you do. So then, in that 5 picture maximum that I have, I can share that and we can see the data and get a feel too for what that land cover's like. Again, kind of extra for experts. There's her tree data, and now here is her precipitation data. So again, each of these data tell a different story. Now we see that we're looking from 0 to 150. So obviously this is an area, even when it does get a lot of precipitation, generally in the spring, we're looking at an area that does not get as much precipitation as, say, you know, some of the other regions that we were looking at earlier. So let me come down here and get that to behave. Close that, come over here a little bit, and come back up. So she was sharing an English oak from Prague, again, giving some information. And then here I put in the link to her interview. So you can see her whole interview there. And I have one more. Here we are looking at Croatia. This is a picture that I went on and found on the internet of the school, because I thought that would be kind of neat to throw in as well. And then there we have our land cover data given to me in a different way. But again, this is helpful. It gives us that fuller, richer picture of where this tree is located. This I thought was kind of nice, and I'm going to write this down. Here is where you can see what your longitude is and your latitude. And I'm just going to write this down because I will use this as my example when I show you how to access that data. So I'm writing my longitude first and then my latitude. And there is her data, and we're going from 25, so they don't have much time when they don't have any precipitation, up there to 250. All right, close that. Come over here. Again, thank you so much for all of you sending in so many data points from Europe. And for anyone who hasn't had a chance to add to their tree story, please do. So this goes on, and we have a couple of other places where people have told me their tree stories. Let me close that one and come back to my directions. I'm not going to go through these all. I'm going to just scroll ahead. This will have different websites you can take a look at if you want to learn more. Peter was talking earlier about that app to learn about NASA. Well, if I like to check out NASA's website on a regular basis because there's always something cool there. Goes through and talks about why we use NASA data. Then I talk, of course, about the GPM mission. This is a kind of a cool video that tells you about precipitation and being able to measure precipitation from space and see the day and night cycle that we can see. So that gives a little more information about that. Here's just a graphic that I think is neat that talks about how trees use water. And you can
Dorian,
go to...
can't see anything right now.
Tell me again. Oh, you're not seeing anything. Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Let me come over here, come back here, share screen, come over here. Thank you, Brian. And let's see if that will share. And bring that bad boy up. Are we good now? You got it?
Yes, good.
Okay, great. That's very good. All right, so that's where the video is, and you can flip around to these different parts here. This is the nice thing about using this different kind of story map. You don't get that map interface to click on, but you do have a little bit different type of usability. Here I'm talking about remote sensing. How does remote sensing work? How can we trust remote sensing to be able to give us these measurements? Then I go over here to Globe Observer, give a little bit of information about what Globe Observer is. All of you know about that. Tell people how to use the tree tool, give that information, how to use the land cover tool, and then how to access your GPM data. So I'm just going to do this, hopefully. Let me make sure you can see this one now. Brian, now are you seeing me going to iMerge? I mean, to
Yep.
Giovanni? Cool.
Yep, you're in Giovanni. Yep.
So I'm just gonna let this render here. I'm gonna say, and all these directions are in there. I just want to show you how easy it is. Seasons. So when I did that one earlier, I must have been rushing and I just didn't click all those seasons. I'm going to put in here 2000 to 2022 because we can't go back before 2000 because we weren't up there. I'm going to put in iMerge, say final search. I want the merged. I want that kind of rich, but very, very filled in, and all the information on iMerge is in that story map. So you can learn as much as you want to know or less. I'm going to say millimeters per month. Up here, here's where I'm going to put first the longitude. Why they have to defy convention, I don't know. A comma, no space. Then I'm going to put in that latitude. And then I'm going to say plot. And hopefully it'll sit there now and it's starting to plot that data. I won't sit here on this while it's plotting the data. I'm going to come back, but we'll take a peek and see if it's rendered it by the time I'm finished, which won't be much longer. So I just tell you, I go through all those steps I showed you. I talk over here, or I have a video about how we have this 20-year record of precipitation, which is what you're getting when you look at those graphs. Here, I'm just giving that information about how to collect that data. And then I'm showing you what, as we looked at earlier, that data will end up looking like. Tell you how you can save your data, either as a PDF, or you could also save it, and you can also save it in a spreadsheet, which will make it a little bit easier to use. As far as submission goes, in order to be in this project, here's what's really helpful to me. You send me a screenshot, because in order to put the picture in, it will not take like PDFs. If you though send me the pictures, I'll turn it into a screenshot. So no worry there. Your tree observation data, just that final one showing me, here's what your tree data looked like. Your land cover data. If you have done the analysis, send me the analysis, as you saw in one example. Otherwise, just your land cover data. And I'll try to make sure when I do my screen capture, or you can make sure it's showing at least those 4 pictures of north, east, south, and west. Up and down don't matter quite so much. And then I'd like you to get a try at, or have your students try at getting their own iMerge data, because that's really a neat thing to be able to do, getting in there and trying that out. I'd like to know a little bit about your tree, what kind it is, if you can find it out, how much water it needs per month. How is it helping? A lot of times it's nice to start to look at how trees are so helpful to us, what they're doing for us, reducing erosion, cooling your house in warm weather, anything else you want to include. Picture of you with your tree, and then I have where you can click to get that permission slip, and just saying that I enjoy, looking forward to hearing about your tree stories. So let me see if that data rendered, come back to Giovanni, yeah. So here we have the data for that location. And what's nice, and are you seeing this right now, Brian, seeing the Giovanni?
Yep, looks good.
Oh, awesome. So when you have Giovanni up and you actually click on each of these, it will give you that, that actual number of how much precipitation it observed falling per month. Then, like I say, if you want to come over here and you want to get a picture of this, you can click any of these. What I do for the purposes of making this story map is I just do a screenshot, and then I take a screenshot of that, because that's the best way to be able to get it to accept the format. If you wanted to get a spreadsheet, you come over here to download, and then you do your combined comma separated value. Then you can come back to your data, and let's say you're like, dude, that was crazy. I want to see that just for January's, or for every month. You can just put it in. You don't have to change any of that. It already knows. And then you tell it to plot the data. So once you get in there and play with it, it really is fun. It's really easy to use. And I hope you'll consider sending in and being a part of this tree project, and helping us know a little more about your tree stories. And I plan to do a telling your mosquito story after I see kind of what seems to work with this. Just ways to tie in the NASA satellite data from the mission that I support and GLOBE Observer, kind of pulling those together and giving it this feeling like, here we are all around the world. How is this impacting us? And, like I say, perhaps even looking at how might we in the future anticipate climate change changing that. So there we have it. And Peter, I'm all ears.
First off, great presentation. In fact, that is the first comment in the chat box, is from Yashra. He says, this is pretty cool. So he really liked it. Some of the questions we have from the chat box are, Petra asks, she says, great. She says, I use story maps with my students on geography class, and last year in a water bodies challenge. So she just want to say great work, and she talks about what she's using it for. Anna asks, she's like, we are thinking of relating the forest to data from Giovanni using thermal anomalies in recent years. Would it be a good idea to compare different locations with this data?
Absolutely. And what's really neat, those of us who are with the GLOBE program, so what I would do, and I think this would make such rich student research, I would have the students do their tree height with GLOBE Observer and also with a clinometer. I would have them do their precipitation with the iMerge data, but also with their rain gauge data. Because anytime you're kind of comparing and contrasting and you have those multiple data sets, that's really rich. Plus you're teaching the kids, just kind of, tease this out. And when they do see anomalies in the data, well, why might that be? Have them do, they could go on and easily work with Giovanni, get temperature data, and then compare and contrast that with their surface measurements. So yeah, that and then especially taking this example of looking at different locations, looking at how varied that data is, and then thinking about, wow, what might we do with this? Whom could we reach out to and perhaps collaborate? you know, from a different country. Here's what we're finding for, maybe take the same species of tree. I was out here at this location and found a beautiful sycamore. And somebody said, oh yeah, we call that a plane tree in Europe. I was like, yeah, now wouldn't that be cool? I'd love to see your data on the plane tree in Italy, where they're experiencing drought, compare and contrast to perhaps, you know, here where they're experiencing drought in Idaho, and, you know, get a feel for what does that tell us about this plane tree or the sycamore tree. So yeah, lots of rich research that hopefully, just seeing this at a very elementary level, just not elementary, actually, it's really, you know, a personal story, telling our tree story. What might that open up to others who perhaps feel like doing more research in that respect?
I think you just answered every question in the chat box with that answer.
Sweet.
She also wanted to follow up and ask, is there any data about fires for the past 20 years on Giovanni?
That is a good question. I'm going to make myself a note. I know there are so many. So Giovanni is a great platform. However, Giovanni, you have to know the breadcrumbs. What I just walked you through, I had to sit there and work with it for a while, and I knew the data was there to get in there and find it. There are some wonderful platforms on fires. I would highly recommend Resource Watch. I'll find that and put the link in here, from the World Resources Institute. They have just done such a great job at taking a variety of different data and fusing it in so that when you're looking at it, it's much easier for your average layperson to interact with the site and interact with the data. And so I would recommend, I mean, you can get in there and mess with Giovanni, and I wrote myself a note to see, but sometimes these other platforms have data that is in a much more user-friendly format and is highly reliable, because of course that's super important that your data is reliable.
Awesome. Larissa really loved the Giovanni feature, and she has a question about that. She asked if we can go ahead and put the link in the chat at some point. I don't think it's there yet, but at some point, if you can do that for her, so she can go in and check that out.
And Tommy, can the link for what again?
Giovanni.
Sure. So the link for Giovanni is actually, it is within that StoryMap, and the StoryMap link, I think she put it again. I'll grab it again. And so, yeah, so there's there's a direct to you, Giovanni, and then it's also within that StoryMap to just click on it. So good. Yep. Thank you.
And Brian actually he made a comment about a question I had. He said, "This is awesome. Such an amazing way to do collaboration with others." My question was going to be, is there a way, as Brian mentioned, when we're doing collaboration, can you have multiple schools work on a story map so they can add both pieces, like they both have access to do that? Or is it just like one person who can input the information?
Sure. At this point in time, and perhaps Peter Nelson, who's done a lot of work with story maps, or any of you who've done it with groups may know, I don't think that is possible unless someone shares their password and their credentials for StoryMap, because basically one person is, through my credentials, I'm building out that StoryMap. I don't believe it's kind of like, say, a Google Doc where, you know, different people can be entering that information, but I don't know. I was saddened to find, because I built out my first StoryMap using a different kind of a map interface. And then I found, oh, when I use that map interface, it creates a nice map, but I can't add pictures, I can't add buttons. So one hand giveth with technology and one hand taketh away, as we were talking earlier. With story maps, that's different, you know? So you'd have to get in there and mess with it. And maybe one of you knows the answer, if you can, multiple people can work on the same story map or not.
And when you've worked with story maps, have you seen any difficulties, any problems that have come up that maybe folks who are going to start using story maps can be aware of?
Yeah, so yes, indeed, and that's what was giving me fits last week when I should have been preparing for the meeting that I'm at now, but I was like, I gotta make this work, dang it. I had created, with StoryMap, you've got 4 different kind of templates. One, you create your own, and that's fine, but that can be labor intensive at first. One has the kind of map that I showed you that I'm doing the telling our stories on, where you can't have individual headings, but you can see those headings along the left-hand side and then see the map there. So that works nicely for this kind of a collaboration, where I want people to be cognizant first of all the locations around the map, and then just be able to easily click on whatever location they want to get that story. There's one more, but that one you can only put on 5 pictures per each of those sidecars, of each of those stories that are there. And you can add buttons, but you can't just put a picture in. Like I would give a little text like I do in my, in the one giving the directions, and then have a video, and then a little text, and then have a picture, maybe, you know, the NASA logo, a little text. You know, so you kind of have to get in and play with the different story maps to get a feel for which one is going to work best for you. I reached out and contacted the folks at Esri, and they got back to me right away. And I told them of my problem. It says I should be able to create headings, but there's no way to create headings within that telling our stories map template, because it doesn't allow you to change whether you're using a paragraph, your text. So if you're using a paragraph, or, you know, what you have to tell it, you're creating a heading in order to then get those navigation tools. You know, it's like anything. I will say it's super easy. It is the most user-friendly PowerPoint on speed that I've ever seen. But with anything, it does take a little bit of getting in there, playing with it, and then being a little bit frustrated. Another thing, when you make your tree story, or anytime you put pictures, it's automatically going to crop your pictures. And you need to go in there in your settings for each picture and tell it, do not crop, fit, do not crop. Because, for example, when I am showing the tree data, I don't just want a little cropped picture that's just going to show a little bit of your data. I want you to see, you know, the whole rectangle that has the data there. So it is a bit fiddly.
Gotcha. And then 2 more questions. It's almost like a season, you know, IVSS season coming up. We're all experienced either judges or work with students. We see a lot of poster presentations, well, PowerPoint, you know, PDFs, documents. This seems like an ideal application to include all that with videos and podcasts and all this stuff. What are your thoughts on seeing this as an IVSS project in a way to showcase student work?
It is such a great way to communicate your findings to others. The other thing that I just love about this is that you have one link to rule them all, and I can give my presentation using my story map. How brilliant is that? After we talk here and I see there were some problems with the map, or I see, oh, I want to add some more things, I take notes, I can go back and add it, and still that same link works. So that is absolutely brilliant. You have everything that you need. I can present it in my presentation. Hopefully some of it will taste like more, and you'll go back and press on the links to learn more at some of the sites that I showed you. So you're able to curate a lot of information and not have it just kind of be boring. I'm sure none of you have ever stood at a boring poster before, but I certainly have. And especially when so much information is put in there. So I kind of feel with something like a story map, they can have fun, they can use their creativity, do some drawings, put in there a little bit of video footage. Don't put in everything they have in their written report, but just think, if I'm doing an elevator speech, I'm communicating my findings and what I did to others. What are some fun, creative ways that I can do that? And I think it really offers the opportunity to a lot of different kinds of learners, and to learners who are speakers of other languages than English, to have a variety of different ways to tell their story. I would say use sidecars. That's just a funny lingo, you can write it down, but sidecars, when they're creating their story map, is going to give them the most versatility. So when they're picking their theme, that would be my suggestion. The other thing as a teacher I would do is I would encourage kids to, I would come up with something like, what I had for dinner last night, or just pick something that every kid experiences. Have them take some pictures and a little bit of a video, and then do their own story map of what I had for dinner last night. So it's a non-threatening, fun, low pressure way to get in there and play with story maps before then they have to pull one together in real time. So that's kind of, that would be, and that they have to have a folder. So every time you send me information, I take it and I have Lenka, and then I have Lenka underscore tree height, Lenka underscore land cover, Lenka underscore iMerge. So then as I'm being the Wizard of Oz and I'm pulling it all together, I have one-stop shopping where I know my files are. So they also have to think about what is their organization going to be? How are they, going to navigate that?
And to point out, this is a free application, right? We know there's a paid and free, but it seems like students can really work with the free one and be able to do a lot of things. It seems like it actually takes something static and makes it more active when we see these presentations.
Peter, it does. And here's kind of a neat thing. Over at Goddard, with actually NASA Communications, at first there was a lot of, we're not using story maps. It goes to a different, it's not linking it directly to NASA. Well, yeah, that's true in that it does. The initial link is Esri, but then every link they go to, it's a NASA link. So now they're realizing like, hey, a lot of people are using this. A lot of people like this. It's a really compelling way to tell a story where people, it's not a big ask of people. They can go as deep or as shallow as they choose to do. And now they're starting to say, has anyone used story maps? Who's using story maps? And it's been fun to see that it's not just for scientists who are doing maps and, a lot of graphical stuff. It's also for the average frog on the street. You can get in there and do all the cool things that Peter does with graphs, but you don't have to. And that's okay too.
And the last question, thank you for that. I love the frogs on the street comment. Last question is, where are you collecting data next? Do you want people from different regions to add to your story map? Are you looking for other regions as well?
I would like data from everywhere, all over the world. I just feel like it's exciting to look at. We are a global community and we can really utilize that ability. We can take something we have in common like trees and precipitation and kind of pull that together. NASA's measuring that. Take a look at how cool this 20-year record is. What does this tell us? What can I tell others about trees in my region? And then, like I say, next I'll do mosquitoes. I just wanted to do this first and kind of learn from this, and then jump into mosquitoes. So yeah, ideas. Any ideas you have? This is just a little baby project that I just started. A way to, like I say, merge these together. So your feedback. I'm a reflective practitioner, and I very much appreciate your feedback, your guidance, your input. Be much appreciated.
Thank you, Dorian. Thank you very much for your presentation. And just to add, Larissa put in the chat that Mike Jabot has a webinar on story maps. Also, I just want to point out you've done tutorials in the past on story maps. So if people want to learn more about them, learn how to go about doing that, you and Peter Nelson both have tutorials on the Trees website. So we can go there and check that out if you want more information on story maps. So thank you once again, Dorian. I really appreciate your work and everything.
My pleasure. I see Valerie has a hand up. I don't know if we addressed her or not.
Oh, I did
hey,
not.
Dorian.
Sorry, Valerie. Go right ahead.
Oh, no, that's okay. I know we're running short. It's wonderful. I'm sold. I want to do it. It's awesome. And I especially love the working with seniors and all. I think that's just a wonderful thing because I know that they would love to get out in the field and do something and learn about how to collect data. So my question is, how would someone get started with this? I mean, you did provide an example of starting out, let's take a picture of our dinner, what we had for dinner, and then start like that. So would we actually use the Globe Observer app, go out, find a tree we like, and measure the height and take a picture of it and start from there? Or how would you suggest someone get started? And also, do we put it into do we send you the data or do we do it in the StoryMap program?
I'm glad you asked that question. Let me put this here. Everything you need is where it says tree store. Oh, no, maybe that's the wrong one. Let me put the right one. Yeah, new StoryMap. Okay, so Tree Stories Only is the one that just has the stories, but new StoryMap, that has everything that they need. All the directions, and then I put on there, one of my navigation tabs says submission. So it says, it just spots out. Because in there, I'd like them to do the iMerge themselves. For my European folks, I did the iMerge for them because we were in a crunch and I wanted to get this up here. If anyone has trouble, of course, I'll do that. But yeah, all the directions are right there, and also giving a rationale behind why we're doing this. And then also for those who haven't used Globe Observer, giving them that little tutorial. Again, just using things that you guys all, we as a larger Globe team have created, and then re-upping them within, curating them within this StoryMap.
Wonderful, thanks. I'll grab those links.
Yeah, good. And then I pull it together because again, in this case, I need this data to then put it into this StoryMap because it isn't so multiple people can enter the same StoryMap and add it. It's not like a Google Doc. It's kind of more like one basic person is pushing that out there.
Awesome. All right. Thank you, Dorian. I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Brian now.
All right. Thank you, Peter. And yeah, thank you so much, Dorian, for that. That's amazing stuff. You've really provided a lot of amazing information for people to contribute to your story map, as well as, get the ideas of how they can create their own story maps. And that's, something that so many groups are working with nowadays, because we're looking at, taking that data and making it, more visible, and making it real world applicable. So, thank you for that. And by having people having their own story maps, it brings that personal effect of science into it as well. So thank you so much, Dorian. All right, with the time remaining, we are going to jump to the last thing here, and it's just about the land cover maps that I mentioned. And then I have a pretty cool teaser thing I'm going to show you, but I'm going to go ahead and share my screen right now again. All right, let me go back to this. Okay, so there's a lot on here, but I'm just showing you because I broke down the globe land cover maps, the top one, the top link, and I'll put these links once again in the webinar, so don't copy these down or whatever. If you take a screenshot, that's fine. But we broke them down into all the different regions. The first one is every globe country, 126 land cover maps with height information, tree height information in it. Peter Nelson and I put together these land cover maps, and it's using the land cover map tool that we have been basically focusing, one of the ones that we've been focusing on during the year 4 of the campaign. So I'm going to quickly jump out of this and go back to the to this here. So if you look, you can see this is what it looks like. They are Google Slides. Peter Falcon, can you see that? That look okay on your end?
Yeah, looks good.
All right, cool. So this is one that we broke down. This happens to be the GLOBE Europe and Eurasia land cover map. So every
actually, Brian, it is it's not in. We can see it, but it's not in the presentation mode.
Oh no, that's okay. It's online. It's a browser.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a browser. Yeah, I'm just keeping it on the browser. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, thank you. So we have this here. This is the Europe and Eurasia region. So we have just the intro of that, and then it goes through all the countries that are part of GLOBE that are within the Europe and Eurasia region. So you can see it goes from, basically Armenia, everything's alphabetical. All the countries are alphabetical. So it runs all the way through, Turkey and Ukraine, and ends with the United Kingdom. And then, I should mention what these maps are showing. And Peter Peter Nelson will talk more about these on the March webinar. He'll focus a little bit more on the GLOBE Europe and Eurasia land cover maps, as well as the tree height information that he has as part of it. But with that said, these maps that you're seeing here are showcasing the different types of land cover, as you can see, the forest, shrubland, herbaceous vegetation, and so on through permanent water bodies. And they are ones that are being showcased on these images are from 2019. They're the most recent ones that are part of this tool. But what I have on the last slide for each section is that we have all the links to all of the ones that you can go in from all the way back to 2015. That's the data that's on this this tool, and it's the land cover viewer tool that Peter Nelson has did a bunch of presentations on during year 4 of the campaign so far. But I wanted to showcase that with you quickly because you know, it's all broken down. And once again, I will share when I do the recording of the webinar, put it on the GLOBE page, and I'll send the email out. I'll remind everyone to check out those links associated with it, and these links will be up there. Well, I won't include all of these links, but the link to the each one of the regions will be up there as well. And finally, I want to do, sorry, I'm going to do one last teaser here. It's something that is coming up, which is very cool. So we have an upcoming spring 2022 intensive observation period. And it's a pretty big effort that we've been working with, and you know, a bunch of you that are on this webinar right now are part of it. But this is an IOP for the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign. As you know, pre-pandemic, we did a bunch of intensive observation periods. We did them quarterly, so we did land cover for 1 month, and then basically 3 months later we did tree height for 1 month, and then back to land cover, and then back to tree height. And then for the year of the campaign, we had 4 intensive observation periods. So we had 4 months of data, 2 months of the tree height, and 2 months of land cover. This one here is a combined one, and it's a combined one where we're asking people to take tree height and land cover observations during a month. So we want to get a lot of data in this short amount of time. As you can see, this is going to run from 22nd of April, which is Earth Day, through the 22nd of May, which is International Biodiversity Day. And what's really awesome about this is that this is a huge collaboration with the GLOBE European Phenology Campaign, the UNEP, that's the United Nations Environment Program, GRID Warsaw Center. You all probably know Ella from Warsaw. They are the coordinator of GLOBE Poland, and also the Urban Heat Island Effect Surface Temperature Field Campaign. So this is a combination of many things. So we are focusing on having a bunch of these collaborators involved because, as you know, the spring campaign for the European Phenology campaign is happening right now. The UNEP in Warsaw is celebrating. UNEP is celebrating 50 years. GLOBE Poland is celebrating 25 years. And the observations that we get from the urban heat island effect with the surface temperature, you know, we've been collaborating with them for the last couple of years now with, you know, promoting the idea of taking surface temperature measurements when they're taking tree height observations and vice versa, you know, specifically in those, you know, urban environments, those cityscapes, places like that. And also we're aligning this to 50 years of Landsat observations, as well, as you've heard us talk about, you know, very frequently with the campaign, and the basically, it's not a milestone, but 3.5 years of tree height observations from the ICESat to the Ice Cloud and Land Elevation Satellite to satellite. So lots of stuff going on here. Now, one disclaimer I want to mention is, as you know, right now we have the NASA Clouds Challenge 2022 happening. This is not a challenge in that sense, because that challenge is completely different. This is an IOP that is going to be basically part of this Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign with these collaborators as part of it, getting the word out. We will have some things on social media related to this, but one thing that's important here, what you see this shareable, we will be having a pre-IOP webinar on Wednesday, April 6th, 2022. At 11 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is 8 a.m. Pacific Time. I put that on for Peter and Peter, 3 p.m. UTC and 5 p.m. Central European Time. And what's really cool about this is that we're going to have presenters from each one of these collaborator groups that are going to talk about why this IOP is important, and, you know, specifically to what they're doing in their programs and projects. So we're going to tie it all together and why this is important. We're also tying this to some other satellites as well, like GPM, because even though we're focusing on tree height and land cover, GPM measures precipitation, right? So precipitation has a huge impact on tree height and land cover. So we want people to still take other protocol observations when they're taking their tree height and land cover. It's just, we can't say, you know, we want to focus on tree height, land cover, precipitation, surface temperature, soil moisture, soil temperature, soil characterization. We can't do all that because people are going to be like, oh, do I have to do all of those? And we'll get bombarded with 1,000,001 questions, and people might get overwhelmed. So this is a combination land cover and tree height, but we're going to recommend people to take other observations, and you'll hear about that during the webinar. So I just wanted to showcase this with you. The website's the URL, the information about it is up there now, more than what you see here. There's some added information, and we'll have an agenda up there, you know, in the next month or so for this pre-IOP webinar. But if you just go to our campaign page, you'll see on the left-hand navigation box that there's a link that says in 2022 intensive observation period, and you can click on that and learn more about it. But we're populating that page, you know, frequently. So, you know, just stay tuned for more information to show up there. So let me go ahead and stop sharing and ask if there are any final questions. And thank you so much for everyone sticking around. We had lots of stuff happening, you know, at the webinar today. Great presentations, you know, great discussion about the European Phenology Campaign, great story maps. Anybody have any final thoughts before we adjourn?
If I may, just 30 seconds, I want to say thank you to Brian, to Peter, and to Dorian for everything you're doing. And the GLOBE family is truly a global community, and everything that you shared today is really a great proof of that. So yes to all global collaboration. And since I have a floor, may I also thank Brian and Peter for your great presentation for global diplomacy fellows who are going to be science attaches and embassies around the world. Our students, fellows are still talking about your presentation, and they were in all awe what GLOBE is doing internationally. So Professor Jabat, he was planning on being here today, but he's teaching in a class, so he's please accept our appreciation on behalf of Professor Mike Jabat, who is a long-time GLOBE member and a leader in the GLOBE. With Professor Jabat and I will be in touch with everyone to share information about a UNEP 50 celebration in all the upcoming celebrations as well, along with our webinars for the GLOBE on science diplomacy, because we all support global collaboration, and GLOBE is one of the unique global programs who really does a truly amazing work in that environment. So thank you all.
Yep, thank you. Yeah, Peter Falcon and I were talking, Larissa, we're like, wait, this might have been the first webinar that Mike Jabat missed. So, but yeah, we understand now, you know, his duties call for sure.
He's
Yeah,
sending his best. Yes, he's in a class teaching.
Yep.
Yeah, he's very busy teaching professor.
Yeah, he's very dedicated to the GLOBE for sure, as well as you are, Larissa. So thank you for all your work as well. And it was great to present, you know, to the diplomacy group and everything. So yeah, super excited to hear about, you know, future information about that.
Yeah, you did a fantastic job, and they all still talking and still asking if you can come back sometime again. So
of course.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much for that.
All right, anyone else? All right then, well, stay tuned for the information about this webinar recording and the links involved, as well as an invite to the you know, the March 2nd webinar that will come out. And thank you in advance to some of the folks on here who are working with students to do presentations. Petra and Marcus, Ramona, as well as, you know, other folks, you know, Lenka getting some information to some of the teachers about presenting at the next webinar. So looking forward to hearing more about the European Phenology Campaign, their spring campaign, as well as hearing from the students and their research as part of that campaign that we can, you know, align to, you know, trees around the globe. So thank you all so much, and we will see you next month. And remember, if you need to get a hold of any of us, you know, shoot us an email, you know, we'll get back to you, you know, ASAP. Thank you all so much.